Good stuff. We're actually starting. There's a new association. I'm sorry, John.
No worries at all, Ron. Just starting it up here. So, everybody, welcome to the Long Island Chiropractic Band of Brothers. Our guest this evening is Dr. Ron Oberstein. Just recently retired from his presidency position at Life West. He's done an amazing job. I was very impressed with the work he's done there. Ron, I just want to thank you for all your years of service to Life West, and you basically brought it back to one of the premier institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if anybody doesn't know, he's traveling all over the world now with his wife. He's basically all of the things they needed to do as a couple. They're really rekindling their romance. Ron, the floor is yours.
All right, man. Well, listen, she spent 3 weeks with me uninterrupted, and we came home together. So that was a good sign for me, right? We haven't spent that much time together at one time for a long time, but I appreciate that, John. Thanks so much. And you know, and I just got to let you guys know, there's no such thing as retirement. There isn't. I'm not retired. What I call it is rewirement, right? And we always rewire, don't we? We're all familiar with neuroplasticity. I'm going to see what my next game is, but I can tell you right now off the bat, it ain't going to be a 9 to 5 or a 24-hour, 24/7 job like the presidency was. I'm going to live where I want to live in the homes that I built, that I love, and travel when I want to travel and do that stuff. So, just to let you know, but I'm in the game, and I'll always be in the game. And I hope, to be honest with you, it's not out yet, but my wife and I are working on something right now, and it's to get our message out to a much broader audience. So, but we'll see what happens. I'll let you know about that another time. Um, John, what do we got? 30 minutes, I think you said.
30 minutes, whatever, and they expounds on you. That's what we
Is
have. We
there,
have an unlimited
is there
amount of
anything you
time.
guys want to know? Like, what can I share with you?
Well, real simple, Ron. I think somebody from your perspective, you have a microscopic and a macroscopic view. So you know where chiropractic was and where it's heading. Well, let's hear your perspective on what people need to do to send more people to school and at the same time be more successful in practice.
Okay, thank you. Um, I'll tell you the thing for our profession to grow, there's a huge shift coming. I'll tell you right now. I want to say 2 years ago, I had Stu Hoffman on a podcast I was doing for Life West, right? It was called Life by Life West or one of those. And Stu was on there, and I asked him, I said, where do you, because this guy's in touch, right? Because he's got however many members he has in his malpractice insurance. And I said, Stu, like, what do you see happening? Like, where do you see this going in our profession? And at that point, he said to me, Ron, I see it happening through franchises, places like The Joint, other franchises that are out there. And I can tell by either the hair on your heads or the lack of hair on your heads that we all probably graduated around the same time. I'm an 81 graduate. You guys are probably within 95, 81 to 90, 80 to 95, maybe. I don't know, maybe 75 to 95. I don't know. But, on some level, and I don't mean this in a negative sense whatsoever, but in some level, we're the old guys on the block, and ladies on the block, you know, and we hung the shingle up. When I got out of school, you could hardly find an associate position unless you went to a DE office, right? Um, I went to Massachusetts. I just hung the shingle up, started working, put my head down, and did what I did, and I grew a very good practice there. Got tired of the winters, and my associate wanted to buy it, and I sold it to him, and I went to San Diego, did the same thing there. Put my head down, started working, and did all the things that I was taught at DE and taught at school. And I just, and success leaves clues, and the clues that I saw were, you know, put your head down, get to work, show up, be truthful, be honest, know the product you're delivering. And when you know the product you're delivering, people will know exactly what you have. I wouldn't go to a Haagen-Dazs ice cream parlor and ask for a pizza. Just wouldn't be me. I'm going in for Haagen-Dazs, right? Um, it's that kind of a deal. And when we start to move with that faith and confidence of who we are, what we are, and what we do for this world. And the other thing too is it's so much bigger than us. If we really want to play a game that's big, it's bigger than us. Like this is about changing the world. That's what I took to Life West. It's about changing the world. It's not about my office. It's about my office and your office and Brian's office and Jeff's office. It's about all of us. And then the more offices. And then it hit me. I wasn't planning on being a president of Life West. It was the furthest thing from my mind. My wife and I have about, I don't know, 40 to 50 nonprofits around the country, serving chiropractic to underserved people. And at least we administrate them. And I was into that ball game, and I was only adjusting maybe 10 hours a week because we had associate doctors, and we're seeing a lot of people in our office. And I was kind of like, I was 36 years in, and I was kind of like just golfing a couple of days a week at Torrey Pines. That was my home course, and I loved San Diego. That's where I lived at the time. And then this presidency thing came and I did one graduation. I was an intern. I literally sat in the seat, not knowing what the fuck, not knowing what was going on, because we had a WASC visit coming up for accreditation, our regional accreditor, first time, and they needed someone, and I was the board chair at the time. So ended up, they said, hey, you know what to do, you know what's going on. Would you just go up there? So I went up there. I said, you got 6 months to find someone for this position. And I am telling you, I am leaving in 6 months, or you're paying me $1 million. Something's got to motivate you. You got to find somebody, right? Because I had a great life going in San Diego. Then I go up to the Bay Area, and I went up on October 31st, 2016. In December, the second Friday of December was graduation. And I did my first graduation. I could read from a script. I read it. I was gowned up, looked like Bozo a little bit. Got up there, did my thing, and I read it. I went over to the far end of the stage. Students came across. 100 students walked across that stage, and I want to tell you about 90% hugged me. Didn't even know me. Some might have known me, but just hugged me, right? They were so excited you could feel their heart just pounding out of their gown. And I went home that night after that experience, and I called my wife. Mary was still in uh, in San Diego, right? My youngest daughter came down with her fiance, and they were going to take over the practice, and so she was still doing a transition with them. And I just said, Mary, I got to talk to you there. And they already started a presidential search, and I said, I think I got to throw my hat in the ring. I said, man, this thing is so much bigger. Now, at that time, my wife and I had sent over 300 students. They stopped counting after 300, over 300 students to Life West, right? Because we're in San Diego. And our giving back was every quarter we would fly a plane full of students on whatever the airlines, now Southwest, but whatever the airlines was, but Pacific Northwest, whatever it was. We'd fly them up on a Thursday morning, and I'd go with them 6 in the morning, come back, I'd have them back by 6 o'clock in the evening in San Diego, right? And we'd usually take about 20 to 30 prospective students every quarter. But it wasn't just me, right? I could be saying to John, who do you have? And Brian, who do you have? Gary, who do you have? And you just give me their names, and I'll pay for it. My wife and I, that was our gift back to not even the chiropractic, to the humanity. I mean, that's what we did. And so we said we did that, right? We flew them up, and I said to Mary that night, I go, Mary, I gotta ask you something because I can't do this without you. But I think that this is just way bigger. I mean, this is like, my gosh, you think us sending students up here was one thing. This is like gigantic, shaping how students think and giving them the give, do, love, serve, and it's just huge. And I got to ask you if this is something you'd want to do. And she laughed. And I'm sweating bullets. Just ask my wife if she wants to move away from our first grandchild and come up, to the Bay Area, which neither of us, we love spending a weekend at that time in San Francisco. I wouldn't go there now, and she said, Ron, listen, I've known since November. I said, what? She goes, your passion is there. You call me at night, you talk about what you're doing and da 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 da. So I said, is that a yes? And she said, yeah. So I applied and I went through the whole process, did everything, boom, and I ended up getting the job. I'd like to think they chose the right person, but I got the job, right? And I dug in there. But the thing is it's much bigger than me. It's much bigger than us. We got a world out there that's so sick. We got a world out there that has no idea about the potential that they have within them. That's the message. I had Herbert Ross Reaver in maybe 2000. I don't know exactly when we had him. You can see the tape on YouTube. I had Herbert Ross Reaver come to a ICA, ICAC of California event in Orange County. And me and another buddy took over. We brought these conventions in. We had Sid speak and Ian and Sigafoods and all these people. It's like a DE almost, but we mix it. And we had Herbert Ross Reaver, and one of the guys we had about 800 people, 900 people in the audience, and there was two microphones in the back, and they were lined up on the sides to get to the mic. And here Herbert Ross Reaver and his wife Millie were on the stage, and I was on the stage with him, and they'd ask him questions after he spoke for about an hour. Then we did this question and answer. And one of the kids, one of the students or doctors got up there because there's some students from LACC and from Life West got up and said, they said, how did you build a practice? Like, what did you do in the 20s? Like, nobody freaking knew what chiropractic was. How did you go out and make this happen? What did you do? And this is the exact words. Watch the tape. I'm almost verbatim. What Herbert Ross Reaver said was this. You know, when I graduated, or when we graduated, we were just so turned on. He didn't say the word turned on, but so excited to tell the world about innate intelligence. That was the message that BJ was giving to the students. It wasn't neck pain, back pain, cricks, strains. It wasn't, whatever. It wasn't. It was all about you got to tell the world about innate intelligence. And if they understand about innate, if they understand that there's an inner power, excuse me, if they understand there's an inner power, if they understand there's an inner intelligence, their whole life will change. And if you understand innate intelligence as a layperson, and chiropractic just puts more, allows the body to function better, allows this intelligence to express itself, at its highest level, who wouldn't want that? That's what they taught. That was his purpose. Truly what's there. So going back to our purpose has got to be bigger, than ourselves, right? And what we're doing. And it's really what's there. And I would tell each and every one of you, get a student, get an intern, bring in an associate doctor. I'm not busy enough. We'll get busy. You'll get busy. I'll tell you what, two things motivate people, right? Their spouse and money. Relationships and money. Those are two big motivators in life. And if you don't think you got enough money to bring an associate on, bring an associate on. You know what's going to happen? You'll start making more money or you won't be taking home money. And make sure you bring the right associate on. Teach them what you know. Have them build their practice. Have them build a business. It's what it's about. So that they can start being successful. We've got to bring more chiropractors into the fold. Everyone's sitting there complaining. They're complaining about this. They're complaining about all this stuff. I mean, we can find a million things to complain about. We know the soapboxes, right? We know, right? Um, and I'm not saying they're not real. They're real for whoever's standing on it, and I honor that. No one's talking about who's winning the battle. You want to look at the schools. You think about the three schools that are doing something with the principal, right? And I like to think that they're Life West. I know Life West is. I like to think that Sherman is, and I like to think that Life is, right? And Cleveland has always been like on the fence, 50-50 kind of deal. So we have three and a half schools out of 20 colleges. And if you looked at all the graduates coming out of the schools and how many that these three and a half put out, we're not winning the battle. It's a law of attrition, and we are not winning the battle. And I have to tell you, I've always said this, as a Jew, where Hitler went wrong, because he wanted to exterminate the Jews off this planet, and where he went wrong was he killed the older people. He didn't kill the children. You want to exterminate you want to exterminate a profession, a religion, where you get the kids. And we're losing it on the kids side. Got it? There's so many more people coming in from the other side, so to speak. And I don't like to say it, but coming in from the non-principled, coming in from the above, down, inside, outside. More of the therapeutic and this. And I think chiropractor is great. If I had back pain, I'm going to a chiropractor. I promise you. Before I go to orthopedic, I'm going to, but I wouldn't go see me. And I'm telling you the truth, straight up. I wouldn't see myself for low back pain. It's not what I did. wasn't what my jam was, I just didn't like it, you got cancer, you want optimal performance, you got all these other, you come see me, right? Because I know that your body can heal itself. I'd rather see chronic stuff, right? Um, but bottom line is this, we got to start filling our colleges, and then we got to start making new college. That's why we made Life West Nebraska. You guys got a school so close to you, Life West Nebraska. Man, they just started today. First day of school today in both places, both Life Wests. And I had heard that there was the maximum they could take is like 30 to 33 in a class there. And they have 30, I think, today. That's incredible. It's great. Almost full max.
Hey, Ron, I have a question about that because I did speak to Peter about it. When you guys do that, and there's obviously some of the other schools, the state schools throughout the country are looking at bringing in chiropractic. How do we open more schools and not go further down the road of attrition,
Yeah.
where in those schools they don't teach the principle at all, or they teach it as a history, which is what I saw today.
Yeah. What we need to do, John, is this is just me thinking and being in that arena, carrying my sword for so long, is we need to go to these. By the way, remember I said the profession, at least what Stu said, how it's going to be shaped more by the leading voices are going to, in another 10 years, it'll be the franchises because they have the collective vision voice, right? Right or wrong, left or right, doesn't matter. They do. It's just that's how it's going. At least that's what it looks like right now. Educationally, I'm going to tell you there are going to be more schools popping up left and right coming out of universities. Number one, financially, it's phenomenal for the school. Most of these schools already have the program. They already have PT or they have nursing or they have labs. They already have all this shit. What they don't have is adjusting tables and anyone to teach it, right? So it's already there. And I don't, they got that school now in Troy, University down in Alabama starting, and they
Yeah.
got the one up in Pitt that's starting. But what you have to understand is like Pitt is only taking 50 people a year. That's all they're taking. It's 50 a year. At least that was their model before, right? Up until, the last I heard, right? So they're not going to have the numbers coming out, but they're going to have the money behind them, right? Because they got $2 billion of grant money, at least they had. I don't know what's going on now, but before some of this grant money got pulled. But I mean, this is a level one research college. But if you've got a low back pain person in there who's running that place, the research is going to be low back pain. Where we know it should be more about salutogenesis. We know it should be about how do we keep people healthy? What do we need to do? More about what the Maha movement is doing right now, right? Let's look and see how do we get people to that space. So, John, to answer your question, is we need to get people like yourself and other people in the position to be able to make that happen. My vision, which I think Peter wants to do also, my vision was to have one um, we'll call it one spaceship, one star, one home school, right? Right. Life West, right? 800, 600 students, 1,000, whatever it is, right? And then have these other, we call them additional educational sites, AESs, five of them around the country. So we put one right in the center, right in the heart of a USA, Nebraska. You can't get any more center than Omaha, right? And then put one in New England. I already had a college. I had a college reach out to me, Southern New Hampshire University. They were courting me left and right to bring a chiropractic, bring Life West there, right? Um, do one down south. Tampa, Florida would be a great place. Do one in the East Coast. I'm sorry, do it in the West Coast, the Northwest. Do one in the Southwest, right? So you have five other schools and now you're spreading out like that. And we need other people to do it too. We need more universities to do it, man. I tell you, I'm getting so pissed about like Troy and these things. I'm getting ready to say, I don't tell my wife I said this because I'm just talking off my head. But I feel like going to University of Michigan and saying, hey, man, I went to school here. Let's bring a chiropractic school here. You need to get up with it. You need to understand what it is. To put a school in is they got the facilities, right? The curriculums, John, they're all the same. They're all they're all the same. The curriculums are, it's the emphasis on the principle that we need to establish, right? And so, yeah, it's that's what we need to do. That's how we got to get in the game and make that happen. And we also got to be sending people to school.
The interesting part about sending people to school is, and it's more pointed now because of the change in how much a student can borrow. which puts chiropractic school a little bit out of reach without private loans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the advantage of that going to if a university picks it up, the costs are going to be much lower.
Absolutely. And that's what's going to be. Listen, I was sitting in an ACC meeting, Association of Chiropractic Colleges, right? And I'm at this table, and and just picture a longitudinal, just picture a table like this, and we're sitting like this going back, right? And I'm at the very front. And across from me is Bill Morgan from Parker, right? So we're at the head of the table, so to speak, and it goes back like this. And they gave the guy from Pittsburgh, like Mike something, I don't know his name, but Schreiber or something. They gave him, he's like the dean of the school, because he can't be a president because he already got a president of Pitt. But he came up and gave a 10-minute talk on what was going on and what they're doing. This was about 2 years ago. And Bill looks at me and I look at Bill, and we're the only two chiropractors that practice chiropractic for an extended period of time, right? We didn't just jump in and jump out or go right in education, right? We had a long history. We practice differently, think differently, but it's okay. He looks at me, I look at him, we both kind of nod, and then the guy finished, and then we had a break, and we walk outside. I walk outside, and he's right on my tail. And I turned around. I said, "Hey, Bill, what's up, man?" I said, I caught our eyes glancing. He goes, "Man, are we the only two in the room that see what the hell's happening here? That these guys are going to start overtaking us. We're all these boxes. We're all these, just picture this. Okay, just picture this. We all got our own little offices. And then hospitals start putting 200 chiropractors in, right? Kind of thing, and bigger centers like that, right? The people don't know the difference. The students don't know the difference unless they're being sent by you guys. They'll know the difference. You'll tell them, no, 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 you're not going to national. You're going to go over here. This is where I'm going to recommend you go. And here's why, right? Pick these schools to go look at. And your patients will be loyal to you and they'll follow that. But the majority of people right now coming to chiropractic college are not coming from referrals. It used to be 80% of the college was of new students were referrals, and 20% was we don't know where, heard about us, did whatever. This was before like all the mass internet advertising, right? And since paid ads and all that stuff, we got into that game too. But since that, because the only way you can survive in this world of recruiting, it's flipped. It's now 80% people coming from social ads, right? Social media, so to speak, and 20% referral. That's what happens. And you all know this. You start putting out a ton of Facebook ads and you start and I'm not saying it's bad, do it, but you start putting it out and people start coming in. You can only hold so many people in your bucket, right? And next thing you know, majority of your patients are coming from the advertising than from referral, right? It's just kind of what happens. So, it's where our attention goes. So we've got to change that. Not change it, but we've got to start bringing more opportunities for them to come. And that's my feeling. And if we have more opportunities to come, people are going to come, man. And students, it's I don't know many professions that AI isn't going to take over, but I will tell you, chiropractic is one that it won't take over. You can't do
You remember, you
chiropractic
remember
without artificial
A.E. Marindus, the anthropologist? He wrote that book years ago, and he made a statement that said chiropractic devoid of its philosophy, may be devoid of its reason for existence.
right?
You started off talking about Herbert Reaver and his excitement about talking about innate intelligence. I think that's the main thing is that's there was an old word called spiz. That idea of spiz that people used to go to a meeting or whatever, or got together and then went back and they sort of lit their office up. Um, that idea where you said is the whole idea of spiz or innate is bigger than the average chiropractor. We have to get this idea of responsibility that it's not just about our office, that there's much more going on, and that as long as we have breath in our body, we're supposed to be able to contribute. Peter and I had this talk a bunch of times. It's about your time, talent, or treasure. And whatever you have, you give as much as you can, sometimes almost till it hurts. But the idea is that, sending kids to school, I think, is becoming tougher and tougher. I send a number of kids to school, but it's getting tougher because they're all worried about how much they're going to owe. Um, we have a big problem in New York because I don't think anybody, at least from what I see when I talk to people, the dearth of associates. I have so many people trying to find associates. and it's almost impossible to find the people. They're not coming here. It might be the cost of living. It might be a bunch of different reasons. You know, we did have an issue where in the school in the state a number of years ago, somebody said New York was a bad place to practice, so a lot of people didn't open up here. But it's an interesting perspective when you talk about students and the schools and how things are changing and the franchises, because a lot of them are actually coming out looking to go to work for the franchises
Yeah.
simply because of what they're offering in the way of
Yeah, they're getting a
payroll.
100 grand a year off the bat, right? 80 to 100 grand. They're walking in, they're adjusting. You guys know, and listen, good, bad, or indifferent, I really don't care, right? The joint. Do you know how many new patients they brought in 2024?
A crazy number of stuff.
Anybody? How would 1.35 million new patients into their centers, right? And over 50% were first time ever in chiropractic. That's huge. Now, they've got the money, the marketing money. They've got 1,000 joints around the country. They got all this different stuff, right? I'm not good, bad, and different. I don't care. Just the model. If you had the opportunity to set a model up like that around how you see chiropractic, and all they do, by the way, is just frickin' adjust. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. They just adjust. But I'm not saying anything about them. Bottom line is that that's what I'm talking about. They start becoming, the people, the voice that people listen to, right? The cultural authority has got to start somewhere, right? And wait 10 years after they've had 30 million people, because it's going to keep growing, right? I mean, my gosh, the cultural authority starts going in that direction. Once again, I'm not saying maybe that's going to be great for us. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that's where it's heading. At least that's what the indicators show. We got to do something. And the other thing we have to do is, man, we got to stop having schools just give out diplomas. The kids got to work for it and say good luck. Hey, here, Gary, here's your diploma. If you go out there, do good. And if you do good, don't forget us, send money back, right? Man, we got to start preparing these students. That's what I did. So we created this clinically inspired learning curriculum. And man, I tell you, Dr. Kevorkian, man, he just ate it up. Every day I saw him, Ron, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen, man. This is incredible. Man, this is like phenomenal. It's beautiful. All this, and all we did was this. I just said from day one. From day one, we have them in the technology training center, and they're learning adjusting, right? They're palpating, adjusting on these tables, that force plate tables and things like that, getting immediate feedback like video games kind of stuff. We're starting them right away. I got them in the clinic now, outpatient clinic, a year earlier than they were when I got there. All of us went through. Your last year of school was clinic, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Your last year? What the hell? Go to medical school. And you know what? They're in butts and seats in science classes for their first 15 months. And then they start doing rotations. And then they start doing all these different things and they get interested in something. And they're out there seeing people. It just doesn't make sense. So I didn't take their model, but I just took a model that how do I get these students out earlier? And now what we have, they used to get in like, like 11th quarter or something like that, 11th, 12th quarter in the clinic. Now they're in an 8th quarter. And they only have to be at our school 8, 9, and 10, 3 quarters to get their requirements they need for us. And then they go out on preceptorship. And that was the key to get them in your offices so they can learn from the pros, learn from the right people who are out there doing it. The college clinic at the health center, it's great, for part four boards and for that kind of, but it's not real life. Remember when you did your exams, man? You don't spend 2 hours on an exam. It's not, someone comes in with whatever, you don't check their baby toe. But in a chiropractic learning environment, they're checking, they do all they have to. You want them to learn how to do these checks that they're going to be tested on, right? So we do that, but it's not real life. So now their whole last year, their last 4 quarters, they're gone and they got to be in offices and if they go to an office they have to adjust, and that's where the success, and over 70% of our people going out, preceptors turn into job offers. That's huge. My whole thing is to create employable people, not just give a diploma and say, Gary, do well and send money back. It's like, I want you employed, man. That's why you're coming here. And I would sit every freaking week. Anytime a parent came on camp, any student, prospective student came on campus, if as long as I was at the school, they were in my office. And they got 30 minutes with me, or I had with them. And if their parents were there, which by the way, now, students now, their parents make a lot of their decisions. You guys probably just like me chose chiropractic, and my mom didn't even know I was going to chiropractic school, kind of deal, right? She found out I was already accepted, but like, we didn't go to them for advice, like, hey, you think I should do this, or da da da. Graduating at our time, remember, you left the house, your room was gone, right? They turned it into storage, whatever. So it was like it's very different now. And you know, my thing to them is to the parent is I want to make your kid employable. I want your kid to be able to go out and be the best that they can be, but before they even graduate, they're already working out in the field. And I tell students this. So you go and work with the masters. You want to know extremity stuff? You go work with Kevin Herron. You want to know functional neurology? You go work in these places, but then you decide where you want to live. And then when you know where you want to live, your last 2 quarters, you go back there. And I tell the chiro kids that too. When chiropractors send their kids to us, which I had a lot of chiro kids every quarter coming. And that's a true testament, right? Knowing that chiropractors are sending their kids to our school. Well, I tell them the same thing. Don't go home. And I tell the parents, I'm telling your kids not to go home right away. Because I have 3 chiro kids. They got to come in with their own bag of tricks. And I got to tell you, man, when my first daughter came back and worked in our practice, our first one who graduated, I was saying to her, tell me what you're saying. I mean, they're speaking really cool stuff, man. I'm still like, she came through my office and she said, Dad, you got to get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this to be a Mary, right? I'm going like, slow down. Like Mary and I sat with her. We'll do her and her fiance. We'll do it, but just go slow. I said, why am I getting rid of that poster? She goes, Dad, look at that poster. I go, what's wrong with that poster? It was a poster, big poster, said subluxation kills. And I said, she said, when did you get that? I go, 1979 when I was a student. That's why. It's like, we see it through our lens, but here's the deal. People don't see that. They don't, all they see is kills. But bottom line is it was there for me. So instead I always had a picture of BJ up on the wall. So when I walked out of my area, BJ was always staring at me the way his picture was. And after every adjustment, I would just took a glance and that's who I had to talk to. But they come out with such great stuff. So I tell the Cairo kids, go work for somebody for two quarters, and if you're gonna go work for your parents, go back and then spend 6 months there and integrate in. But bring a bag of tricks. There's so much that they know. They're incredible. I mean, just incredible. So it's a different ball game, man. John. But I think the answer is we got to get more kids in the schools.
Ron, I really appreciate it because it's the idea of sending people to school is I think the first thing. Like Ernie Landy used to say, "Who'd you send to school? Who'd you send to school? Who'd you send to school?" You got great hands. You'd be a good chiropractor. And he was another one to send hundreds of people to school. But I'm very
It's so
excited to
true.
see what you and Mary are going to do. I know you got your foundations. I'm watching what's going on. I'm very excited. You're welcome to a respite, not a retirement, as they say.
Rewirement, brother. Rewirement. Yeah, we're gonna do
And
something. We're gonna do something fun, and we just got to get our message out, right? And
yep,
here's the deal: our message. A lot of people talking it. Remember Deepak Chopra first came out?
yep,
What did we all say? He's
He
talking our
stole our
message, right? He stole our stuff.
yep,
It's universal, man. It's like universal, but people don't. They still don't get it. And if we want to truly, you guys know Walter Sanchez.
yep.
Sure.
Yeah, Walter starts every one of it. At least he did. I just talked to him. His kid just started school in Nebraska. So Walter Sanchez's kid just started school in Nebraska. Brad Glowacki's kid just started school in Nebraska today. I've got about in that class. There's probably about 7 chiropractic kids out of those 30. Um, Walter used to start his health talk every week by saying this line: "The reason for tonight or today, whatever it is to set you free." That's what he used to say. It's to set you free. And then he go on to say, to set you free of the bondage that we have in our heads that have been dictating how we live our life, how we take care of our health, all these things. And I want to be able to share information today that you can make your own choices and literally set you free. And that's what chiropractic is, isn't it? It's just about setting people free. So it's below, it's an atlas and below, and it's above, right? So just what we need to do and what's there.
My brother, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it. I want to wish you a good holiday and I hope to see you on the road some of these days.
Absolutely. You will. You guys will see me and appreciate you guys. Jeff, you message me, okay? And I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll anytime just let me know. I'm happy to share whatever I got going on.
Thanks very much, Ron.
Okay.
Everybody
Thanks,
have a
Ron.
great night. Dr.
Thanks,
Ron
brother.
Bye,
Oberstein,
Brian.
thank you very
Bye,
much.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank
guy, brother.
See you later.
Good night.